Are we doing this? Or are we starting over?
Let me get serious here real quick.
I can't do this.
You're a moderator. Moderate!
Stop it. Hi, everyone. I'm Scott.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Jonathan.
And this is the No Way to Hollywood podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we're really glad you're here.
So much thanks.
On tonight's episode, we are going to talk about the credits, and then we will talk about a movie that we've actually all seen.
That'll be a first.
Wait, we all saw this movie?
Well, you guys saw it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just surprised. I'm just surprised. First time ever on episode 3.
Well, we'll let you figure out what that movie is later.
Because we'll tell you what it is.
In the title. Likely. Anyway.
No, don't tell him. All right, we're going to start out tonight. One of the things that I learned in film school was that you are supposed to stay and watch all of the credits at the end of the movie.
Why is that, Scott?
My professor, who knows what he was thinking at the time because he was crazy, believes that it is your way to show respect to all the people who worked so hard in making that movie.
And you listened to this guy.
I didn't have a choice, Luke.
You were paying him.
I was paying him to listen to him.
Wait, okay. All right. I've had a professor who said something similar, but it wasn't about all the hard work. I mean, he probably gave that spiel because that's like a common spiel because you're in the industry. Respect everyone else's work. Nah, whatever. Here's the thing. He said that it was all about having some time to respect the movie itself and to digest it. So his thing was you can respect the people by looking and reading, but you could actually spend that 5-10 minutes of just letting the movie process in your head, not jump up and get back to life, but like actually have a chance to let it sink in, think about it a little bit before you move on. That was his reasoning for the credit stuff.
Yeah, and I totally heard the thing as well, where it's like, yeah, like, this is hard work. Respect the people who made it, blah, 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 which I was like, whatever, dude. But I do watch the credits for films. I do tend to sit through the whole credits, and it's not just because of the gags now or the gimmicks now where it's like, we're going to show you this little clip or whatever. Like, it's because I actually like to know. This is truly it. I can't read the names fast enough. I don't know who they are anyway. I watch it because I'm interested in knowing what teams were part of making this film. So it's more like these breakdowns of like, oh, okay, Best Boy Electric. What in the world is that, right? So then I'll go look that up again. Or it's like second AD. What? Why? Like, what is this, right? And so for me, it's more interesting to know what goes into the film than the names of who was in it. So that's why I watch the credits. And then it's interesting too, thinking of credits, that like we move them to the end. They used to be in the beginning, like just filmically, like we've done these kind of different things, and now there's this gimmick of like, we'll show you this extra clip or something if you stick around, or we'll do a funny song if you're watching the Lego Movie or whatever, right? Like we're trying to help people stay, but because I'm just fascinated by the process, that's why I watch them.
To be honest, I'm not entirely sure why we're still doing credits in the way that we are in the film industry. I mean, we've got IMDb, right? So it's nice. I mean, I don't want to disrespect anybody who works in the film industry because it is a lot of hard work, and I understand that, and I do appreciate that. There's also a level, though, where as an audience member, the vast majority do not care, do not understand, and just because a person's name goes on the screen does not mean that I suddenly have an appreciation for the Best Boy Electric. I don't see that. He's one. They're one of many names. Now, if you're talking about the industry having some sort of point of reference for, I'd like to know who did what on the movie. That's IMDb. Right, like that's where I'm sort of thinking that it seems a little antiquated at this point. It's a signature, I guess, right? It's sort of like we're gonna put in the movie on the piece of art. We're gonna all sign our name on this essentially and show everyone that what we did, and that's fine, and it's a tradition, fine. But I don't know that it. I'm not sure what the point of it is in the modern age as much anymore. I mean, it is nice to see the director, actor, or whatever, especially if you don't know. But it's always For my experience, most audiences are just concerned about a few names towards the beginning, and after that, it's really truly just I'm waiting for the end credit scene, or I'm just talking to my friends, or there's no understood point to it.
Sure. I mean, unless you're one of the people that actually worked on the movie, and then you can point to it and say, "Hey, look, there's my name."
Yeah,
and it's gone now.
Oh, sad day.
Well, and I guess my sudden question I didn't know I had was, Well, how do you appreciate those people well? Is that really the best way to appreciate them? I mean, and how many people, how many music, right? You've got the little, I mean, if you buy the album, which if you buy the album physically, that's rare now, right? But even then, it was a little booklet, right? And you could go find the names of who produced, who did drums, right? And you can still get that information. But again, it's on the music industry at least had where it was always sort of on you to go do that, right? If you wanted to know, you had to go find it and figure it out. Movie industry said we're going to just tell you because we don't have any other way to, like, we don't have a booklet, right? We were just a film in theaters. This is the only way for us to tell you who worked on this in a lot of ways. But that tradition's held true. But a lot of things in Hollywood are traditions that I'm not sure. I don't understand how to do this. Like, what is the right way to appreciate these people? What is the best way to do that? Should credits even exist in a sense anymore? Is that really, it's tradition, but what's the purpose of it anymore?
You know, I think you make a good point, especially in the information age. However, I don't feel like it's got to be one of those traditions that's ever going to fade away. I think too many people like seeing their name on the screen for it to actually fade away.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, though, because, yeah, how do you gain appreciation for these other roles? I gain an appreciation for the roles, but that's because I appreciate the role. I don't care that, you know, it's much more of a thing of like how much work went into this movie. Oh, look, there were like 30,000 rotoscopers. Wow, those guys' lives were terrible for however long that film went, right? Like these people, but then it's also cool, like with Pixar doing their production babies, or like here's the people who worked on the software, and like that's all really cool to me. So there's something cool about that, and then just seeing the sheer number of names,
Sure.
and kind of even sometimes the personality of the people behind it is kind of fun. But it's not like I remember that that's the person who worked on this. But that's also a personal problem because I don't remember names. Sorry.
Well, I can't remember which. I think it was actually X-Files. The second X-Files movie, I believe, actually did, at least for a good chunk of the crew, they did pictures, and that really changes the game because now you have a connection. A name is really, especially when you've got a huge list of names, it's really hard to keep up with what's going on or the role. But when you've got the name, the role, and you see the person, you see that this is a real human. They worked in this movie. This is the job they did. Suddenly, as an audience member, at least I have an opportunity to care. And in a way, it's much stronger than others. Now, does everybody want their picture on the screen? Does everybody, whatever. But just, I don't know. I know we're going off on this credits thing a little bit more than maybe we thought we would, but it's a fascinating question to me now as I think about, like, if I was in control, truly in control, and wasn't concerned about guilds or whatever, like if I was just doing it, what would be the best way to take care of my people? What's the best way to give appreciation for the thing? What's the best way to make the industry move forward, and not just to progress, but like what is actually the best way to do this?
And that reminds me of like of my few short films that I've done, damsels with like these little flashes of the people when their name goes by, and granted that's a short film, so it's four of us
right,
worked on this film, but like these glimpses, and I tried to choose, like, when we're talking sound, okay, here he is with his sound thing on, and when we're talking cinematography, here's Jonathan doing his little like this is what we're doing, and it I feel like it gives a much better feeling.
But you also have a huge passion for behind the scenes.
That I do.
So that might be part of why you're drawn to do it that way as well.
Right, that's a good point. And I haven't done it for my other films. It's just for that film, short film, there was that was a good like vibe for the credits there.
What do you think, Scott?
I have no clue. Let's be honest. I'm just going to sit and watch the credits because that's what I've done and that's what I will continue to do.
Okay, so let's say that you get hired on as like caterer number 8.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're going to go get people at Chick-fil-A or something,
I can hand people candy if they want.
Right, yeah. So like how would you want to be respected at the end of the movie or acknowledged for your role as caterer number 8?
And I think that's part of the cool thing about what the credits are now is like just having my name on a movie, even though I was the 8th person to be giving out food. Like, hey, that's pretty cool. I'm connected to that movie for the rest of my life, for the rest of that movie's life.
And your friends and family will go and see it, and they'll be like, there he is. Oh, it's gone.
Exactly.
I mean, I guess that is kind of fun.
Yeah. But in light of that, guys, if we were to make a movie and you were to see your name roll through the credits, what would the title next to it be?
Writer-director.
And can you expound on that a little bit and tell us why that's the position you want to have?
Because that's the position that's the closest to the storytelling aspect, I think. And by that, I don't mean to disrespect. There's storytelling in lighting, storytelling in music, or storytelling in 1,000 different parts of the movie, and it's all a team effort. But it's the writing in particular is where the blueprint is built for the whole thing. It's where the original idea, if there is one, can be hopefully started and given. It is a hugely important part of the process, and it's going to change, which is why I like the director aspect, because even though director is not necessarily my favorite thing in the world, from my experience with it, which again is limited, film school and short films and things like that. I certainly haven't worked on an industry standard as a director, but there's I like the idea, at least, and I like the attempts at trying to get the vision fully across, which is why I like that combo, which is why there's plenty of guys who do that. And also director, I think a director at their best, while very knowledgeable and very attempts willing to fight for the vision that they have, is really somebody who is able to help everybody else do their job. That's their real job, and they're able to do it by all sorts of methods, whether it's sort of like counseling actors in a way, to even just giving practical answers to things to their departments and having a vision and being like, no, how do I, it's communication, right? How do I help you understand? I need this sort of thing to happen, but I don't even necessarily know the full extent of that. I know enough to know that it has to be something in this realm. I have to give you that and then let you do your job and help you do your job. Help get out of your way, let you think, let you do your thing. And you come up with something amazing, and then I get to embrace that, and we get to make something awesome out of that. Like, that's, from my experience, that's sort of the best part of it. It's sort of an in charge thing, but it's like all real leadership. It's service. So you get to go with everybody. You get to cast a vision, and they are actually willing to help you, and then you get to work together to make something become a reality. And so it's a vision casting thing from the whole process, and a vision to reality. And of course, I love editing and stuff, but I'm not interested in being an editor as much as I am being the guy who's the director, writer in the room, being like, no, that doesn't play right. We have to do it some other way because I need this to come across this way.
Yeah. And I'm gonna ask you all this as well, but go ahead and start thinking on this one. Who's a writer director that's currently working in the film industry that you think is doing it right? Luke, in the meantime, while he's thinking about that, what is the role that you'd like, or the title you'd like to see next to your name in the credits?
Well, okay, there's the reality of it, which is with my short films again, and that's my only experience as well, right? And in short films, I put my name last, and I just say a film by Luke Holtzman, because when I make a film, I really want to highlight everybody else on the crew and what they have done and what they've contributed, and it's impossible because they're always contributing way more than just like the role that they have, like, or the 8 roles that they have, and
indie movies.
Yeah, and then as a kid, I just loved putting my name as many times, like I held that camera and I didn't even have a microphone, but like that I did audio,
director of photography.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was just like, look at me, right? And now it's much more. If it's a film that I have written and directed and edited and mixed, even though I'm not any good at like some of that stuff, it's like, it's not a role. It's that this is my baby. This is my film, right? So it's a film by me, right? But then if we were to step out of like Luke Holtzman's YouTube videos. Nobody cares about, right? Except for me, because I love them. If it was like, okay, you're going to be on a film, right? You're working on a film.
Right.
That role would be the editor.
Okay. Why the editor, Luke?
Because that is the thing that I am most comfortable with. I have the most experience with. And I like the technical side of finding the story and making it make sense. And there's something cool about being able to sit in a room with all the stuff and say, how do I make this work the best? And having edited for as many years as I have, it is really fun when I'm like, something's not working. Oh, it's because of this. And then like 4 frames and it's working now. And knowing why. And then what's cool is every time I work on a project, I learn a little bit more of what works and what doesn't and why. And that just, it just makes me feel really good when I do that.
Sure. And for the previous 2 episodes and what this episode will be, And for as minimal editing as there is, Luke has done a fabulous job with that. So
there's no editing. There's just trimming off the end in the beginning. And color correcting and, yeah, that
He
kind of
does work though, and we're appreciative.
stuff. Thanks, guys.
All right. For me personally, it's tough because I've played around with so many different roles that I'd like to have. I tried writing and then I realized I'm not that good of a writer. And tried directing and realized I wasn't that good of a director.
For the record, I never said I was any good. I'm hopeful to become good, but just for the record.
And I just love what I make, but given the views that I get, I'm not good at it either.
I've even tried the editing thing, and Luke is clearly better at it than I am. So in light of that, where I kind of find my niche is more along the producer side of things. And I think a lot of my reasoning behind that is very similar to what these guys are doing. It's just I'm the guy that kind of gets to bring everything together and put the right people in the right places to do the job.
So what is a producer, Scott? Like what? Because there's like executive producers and there's like producers and there's like production assistants. Like what's a producer? Like what do you do?
How
as a
would
producer?
you define
Yeah,
producer?
what do you
what kind
do?
of producer would you be?
That is a great question. I mean, I really am the organization putting it all together kind of guy. So finding the right people, putting them in the right position, making sure we're checking the boxes, dotting the I's, crossing the T's.
So schedules and like paperwork.
You name it, man. You name it.
I already told
All
you
of a
this.
sudden,
You gotta get him in.
All of
I
a
know,
sudden,
I know.
they're signing me up for their next production.
Look, we talked to you early in the early days at work, and you mentioned some of this stuff, and I found out that this was your niche. I was like, well, that'll fit because we have an opening. Ain't nobody doing that in our film.
It's true. Well, that's cool.
Right.
Well, cool, Scott. I'm looking forward to working with you someday.
Me too, Luke. Me too. All right, Jonathan.
Maybe we'll even produce art at some point, or like a podcast or something.
That would be pretty cool. 2 years later.
Yeah.
Jonathan, back to you.
Uh-huh.
Now that I've given you some time to think.
Sure.
You as the writer-director,
Yeah.
who is the writer-director that you think is doing it right?
As much as you've given me time to think, my subconscious has not done well on this one. I think that I'm trying to think, right, who are the big writer-directors? Like, who are the big combo guys? And I think of M. Night Shyamalan, right? He's a big
Sure.
writer-director combo guy. I think of Rian Johnson. He's a big writer-director combo guy.
Sure.
Robert Rodriguez.
Robert Rodriguez. Yeah, that's a good choice. You know, what's coming to mind is just because I love this movie quite a bit, but it's George Miller because of Mad Max Fury Road. But George Miller isn't necessarily a writer-director like all the time. I don't think he did Happy Feet. I'm pretty sure he didn't write Happy Feet, but he directed it. Right? He did Big Babe, Pig in the City. I don't think he wrote that. I think he just directed that. But with Mad Max Fury Road, he totally wrote that. That is his character. It's his baby. It's his whole thing. And he the way he wrote that I find fascinating. So I'm going to cheat a little bit into a twofer. Rian Johnson's probably the easiest one I can give you right now, just because he's in my brain a lot. When I think writer-director, he stands out. Now, granted, Last Jedi I had issues with, and I think that some people may even have issues with Knives Out for valid reasons. But I tend to find him, I mean, even with his tendency to potentially decide to subvert the genre more than build up a genre, which I would probably be in the opposite a lot of times, he is just really good at his craft. He's just really good at it, and he cares about the storytelling, and he cares about the different facets, and he's an incredibly, as far as I can understand or see, he's an incredibly affable person, kind person. He's not a Kubrick or something where like I'm a visionary genius, and Kubrick didn't necessarily say that about himself, but he had the air of that's what I'm doing. I'm going to do 75 takes and get it right. I will take this. You're just a person that needs to do the job I need you to do. So I'm going to abuse you basically emotionally until you get the performance I want. And I don't appreciate that kind of stuff.
Right.
Rian Johnson, as best I can tell, is not like that. So I very much appreciate his work. Looper is one of the big ones that really got me in to love Rian Johnson. I thought Knives Out was a lot of fun and well done. Last Jedi there's half a movie in there that I really love, and there's half a movie I really don't. So writers and directors, yes, that's sort of where I go. If you want just director, Denis Villeneuve is right now my guy. And if you want somebody who did something fascinating, George Miller's writing, directing of Mad Max Fury Road is fascinating because the script is minimal. The script is storyboards. The man commissioned storyboards. I think there was like 10,000 or something storyboards on panels around the room, and that was the script. In many ways, that was the entire. Like I don't know if they ever had a typical shooting script in the traditional way. I'm not sure if they did that or if that was adapted from the storyboards. So, and he's been working on that for 12 years. Like it was a long process, and so he had those storyboards. He'd bring people in and he'd say, "Hey, you want to know what the movie is? Walk around the room, take a look at the storyboards, shot by shot by shot by shot, with this direction and dialogue, like all there, almost like a comic book, right? Read all of that." Now you know what the story is, because he understands that filmmaking is fundamentally a visual medium, and so he tried to write a story, or he chose to write the story in a visual medium as opposed to a script format.
Sure. Luke, I know your position and my position are a little bit tougher to come up with names, but maybe you can just give us a sense on what the... If you have a name, that'd be awesome. But maybe just what the people that are doing it right are doing right now.
This is where it gets really tricky, because they say that the best editors are the ones you don't see.
Right?
Right? Like you shouldn't notice it. One of my other difficulties is that, like, of the names, like the editor names, I watch their films. And okay, yeah, you had a mountain of work to make this movie happen, and it's fascinating your process and how you did it and all that kind of stuff. But what I have found is when I watch these, like, whoa, this movie was amazingly edited by this amazing editor who has this great name, who's like the editing person. Like, as I watch the film, I'm like, well, that's an editing mistake.
Sure.
And so I'm like, I don't know, right? So and then the other thing is, since we already talked about credits, I watch the credits. And I truly don't know any editors' names. I don't know you guys or gals. You're all awesome doing your work. I've heard that the editing in Parasite is amazing, and I'm excited to see that, right?
Sure.
But it's not something that I can say this is the good stuff. Like,
right.
You got, like, what are the good things to do in editing? I can talk you through that kind of stuff, but that's kind of a separate topic.
Sure.
Like, who's doing it, right?
Right.
Well, then I have a question for you. Then, if you can't think of a name, which is fair, understandable, and what's a movie, a scene, or a specific edit even that stood out to you, not because it wasn't a good edit and it stood out, but because when you look back at it, you're like, that was just really, really well paced, or that was just a really great scene, and I love how that came together. What would you identify as being just a scene, just one thing, one choice even that an editor made, and then IMDb, or maybe we'll put it in the comment or something like, hey, that's who this person is.
Yeah, that's good.
Deep thoughts from Luke.
No, this is trying to, like, scrape up something useful in my brain. Like, this is an excellent question, and I think one of the reasons why it's hard for me to answer it is because, it does the story flow and do I enjoy it, and then how much of that is the edit versus the script versus whatever, right?
The fact that it's a collaborative art,
right? So and again, since editing is supposed to be invisible. It's like the only examples that come to mind are the ones that aren't invisible, where I'm like, why did you do that? Like, I don't understand, right? So, a film that I really enjoy, and it's got, like, little visual graphics and things that go into it, is Stranger Than Fiction. And it just, I feel like the pacing works pretty well. There's a couple scenes, kind of mid 2/3 of the way into the film that you're like, whoa, okay, I think we could speed up, or I'm not getting that gag or whatever. But in general, that one, the shot choices, the pace, the story, the little visual gags, all that works really, really well for me, which is why that movie stands out for me as one that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'll have to think about the question, and maybe someday I'll have a cool answer.
I do think about story, just on editing, I do think about stories of, like, Top Gun, where nothing makes any sense. all the footage there was just like we don't actually, the editors and the direct, like no one quite knows exactly what's going on. We know what needs to happen sort of maybe in this scene, but we don't, the footage is just kind of hard and contextual-less in a sense. And editors finding a way to be like, yeah, we're gonna put this with this with this, and boom, there you go. There's your jet fight sequence. Or what was the one where it's just circles and the just
So
circles?
in the original Gone in 60 Seconds movie, the editor like calls the director and is like, I have no idea what's going on with this footage, and the director is like, well, it's a circle, you see? So he takes out a piece of paper. He's like, it goes like this, okay?
We're talking about a car chase in a movie from the 60s, 70s,
Yeah,
70s,
yep.
I think.
And so yes, he just draws a circle and then walks out of the room, and the editor's like, okay then. But again, these are the background stories rather than the outcome, right? And that's interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, Scott.
Oh no,
How
you
about
guys
you?
are good.
Producer.
Producers. I mean, it's so tough because there are big name producers out there that you will see again and again and again. But I think the respect that I have are for the people that are actually doing other roles that kind of step up and say, well, I'm going to produce this as well. And part of that's that they're putting more of their energy, more of their time, more of their money into this film because it is a project that they want to see succeed.
So who's someone who does that?
I mean, there's so many that do it, Luke, but I think one of the ones that I've seen recently or in the past is like a Tom Hanks who directs, produced a few movies and acted in. Usually had smaller bit roles in those. So, what's the movie? That Thing You Do. Yeah,
Good movie.
good movie.
Check that out.
Maybe I will someday.
You haven't seen That Thing You Do?
I haven't.
You
How long have we been friends?
doing that thing you do.
Not long enough, clearly.
I'll work on this.
All right, and it's about time for us to get to the one movie that came out within the last year that we've all seen.
The Matrix.
That was last year?
I mean, it was re-released in Dolby Atmos. That was fantastic.
That's pretty nice, actually.
I
yeah.
didn't see it in the Dolby Atmos though, so
So it was not The Matrix.
it was not The Matrix.
Ford versus
Ferrari? Hey, look at that.
Ford versus Ferrari.
We have
Ford
all-
v Ferrari.
We've all seen this movie, oddly enough, unlike episode 1 where I was the only one that saw a movie.
For episode 2, where no one of us have seen
No
the
one had
film that
seen
hasn't come out.
Mulan because it hadn't come out yet.
But yeah, we were talking Ford versus Ferrari. So guys, let's start out with just some general thoughts and one thing that you really appreciated about the movie.
All right. I think Ford versus Ferrari was entertaining. I think it is mostly a crowd-pleasing style of movie, which is why I think it got kind of the recognition that it did. It is very... I feel like what I'm about to say is going to be somehow regarded as disrespect to the film, and I do not mean it in that way at all, but I find it incredibly functional, and I think it works well and is entertaining, but I do not find any part of it, well, there's a couple parts, but most of it I do not find to be standing out or spectacular in some way that really strikes me emotionally or visually or in any other way, or knowing the craft and saying like, oh wow, how did I do that? Those car chase sequences and how they shot this movie, I'm sure is a technical feat. I definitely felt the rhythm of it. I felt the speed of it. I enjoyed it, but there's nothing. I think maybe because I came in after it was a Best Picture nominee and I watched it and I thought to myself, I don't know why this film is in the mix. I'm not sure what elevates this film to be a Best Picture of the year contender. For me, it probably wouldn't necessarily be in that category, but then again, my nominees for the year would be completely different, and I'm having a hard time with the movies we have right now anyway. But it's very functional, very good. I think the thing I appreciate the most about it is Christian Bale's performance, along with that the way they wrote that character, which is kind of a bit of a double-edged sword, because apparently some of the things that I really like are not true, which is
Of course.
which is a bummer.
Typical.
But that character is very concerned about racing and things. Like it's his passion. It's what he wants to do. But you know that because he does love it and he does do it. But everyone around him thinks that he can't live without it. But he keeps on making choices the entire movie where he can. At the very beginning of the movie, his shop closes down. And he says, "I can't race anymore. We got to make money for the family." And his wife's like, "You can't do that. That would be horrible. And you can't kill yourself that way. You want to race. Don't do that." And so she's doing that for him. But the character says, "It's what we got to do. It's fine. It's going to be okay." Now, and that sort of repeats, and it's a theme for him and that character, especially towards the end of the movie when certain things happen that push him into a really tight spot, a really depressing spot, and he handles it really well in the movie. Apparently in real life, he was crushed, which is expected and unfortunate. But the character, how it was portrayed, I really enjoyed.
And I think my favorite aspect of the film was his wife. And the moment that really clinched it for me was she's watching these two grown men fighting, in the grass, just like punching each other. She just pulls out the chair and sits down and is just like,
watches them.
and just
Yeah,
and reads and watches and what's going on. And that portrayal of her and her relationship with these two passionate guys and like just how she deals with it was great. I loved that. And thinking back, I almost wish that was my introduction to her rather than another satisfied customer. I just happen to like grease and gasoline and what, kind of thing. So,
I mean, that was kind of awesome, though.
It felt a little tropey to me or something.
Sure, I just liked that it was actually his wife instead of some broad.
I mean, that's fair. But so I think that was the thing that I liked the most about it was kind of her relationship to these guys and kind of how that actually, from a storytelling perspective, shows their relationship better because it gives a history because she's like, whatever, like she's not freaking out. This is normal, right? And then later they say it with a line of dialogue, which is, whatever, like you pulled a Mike Tyson and bit off my ear or whatever. I don't remember what he said. You broke my finger, I think. Whatever.
Right.
There was something cool about that. So I liked that about it.
Cool. Yeah. I think there are definitely some phenomenal acting performances in that movie. However, I think the thing that caught me, and as I was thinking back on this movie, there were so many aspects of the filmmaking that I just kind of ignored, mostly because I was literally on the seat of my pants for the story. Like, I wanted to know what was going to happen next. And you'd put me into a scene, and I'd be like, okay, how is this going to end? And I might already be trying to figure it out. I'd, be watching and appreciating it. And
So it got you really good. It gripped you.
It did. It really did. I just wanted to see that next step and what was coming. And you're sitting there at the end and you're going, okay, he's got a decision to make. What decision is he going to make? And
Yep.
I was crushed for him in the movie, so I can expect in real life that that guy was crushed, like Luke was saying. So. Jonathan was saying that one?
I did say that. It's okay.
I'm such a bad host.
I've said things before. Don't worry. I'll say more things too.
Cool. So in light of our experience with Ford versus Ferrari, what I want you to do is put a value on the movie. Okay?
$5. I'm just 1 million pounds.
I think we got it from the red box. So what is that like? No. We borrowed it from a friend. We borrowed it from a friend. So
FREE.
So in light of that, how much money would you have paid to see the movie? What's the maximum amount of money you would have paid to see the movie?
The maximum I would have paid is whatever it cost to go to the Dolby Atmos. And around here, if I don't have A-list, which I do, but if I don't have A-list, would be something around potentially $18, something like that. If it was at a prime time, which I probably wouldn't, so it'd probably be closer to somewhere to like $12 somewhere in there, because I love the Dolby Atmos format. I love a theater format, and paying that money to have the opportunity to see that filmmaking done on the big screen. Granted, like I said, nothing quote unquote was elevated to a whole crazy new level, but I can totally see looking back on the movie that just the racing sequence, if nothing else, those racing sequences and the way they edit it and film it would have felt really, really good in the Dolby Atmos. So I totally would have paid for that.
Yeah, just the sound design alone with those cars racing by in the Dolby Atmos would have been phenomenal for sure. And I may have actually seen it in the Dolby Atmos, so I'm not going to say anything else. Luke, how about you? What would you have paid to see this movie?
I had I gone to like an afternoon matinee, so like $5 or whatever, I would have been okay. I don't know if I would have been thrilled with my $5. Had it been on a streaming service, watching it with a friend, okay, that's kind of cool. But there wasn't anything in the movie that moved me the way that it moved you, and so it was a film. It was a film that I watched. It was a film that I watched to kind of get a feel for where we are with filmmaking these days, that kind of stuff. But it didn't do anything special for me.
Let me just say that when it comes to how I learn what I really value from films, like which films really stand out to me, are typically the ones that I'm willing to watch again and again, and generally ones I want. Like I want to watch that again, or I really want to be, even if I don't have the heart to watch it, like maybe something like Schindler's List or something, right? Something really, really powerful that you don't really have the heart to watch very often, but you still want to. You want to own it. You want to be in your collection. You want to have access to it so that when you're finally ready 5 years later, you'll watch it. But it's that good. You want to have access to it. That kind of thing where I need to be able to access it again on my own terms whenever. That's all right. I need to see it again. That's to me the sign of a great movie. Like that's my favorite movies. And Ford versus Ferrari, I will happily watch at some point again, but it won't be soon. I'm not clamoring for it. And so while I would be willing to pay $12 for it to see it Dolby Atmos, the first time I would say, the second time I don't know that I would do that. I think that I would say, okay, fine. When I catch it on TV or whenever if it shows up, if movie night wants to watch it a year from now or whatever, okay, sure, we can do that. But it's not the movie I'm going to seek out and make sure I watch again.
Yeah, and I think the value that I would put on it is definitely in that kind of $12 to $15 range. So
minimum wage.
So hopefully that.
No. An hour of minimum wage.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, not even the full runtime. Wow. Okay.
I mean, hopefully that puts me in a showing in the Dolby Atmos theater. I mean, strictly from the sound design aspect of this movie, because
it's very good.
It's very good. It's delightful to hear the roar and actually feel the roar of that engine in the car, right? And I don't even think an IMAX theater would do that side of it justice as much as that Dolby Atmos does. It just doesn't work that way.
If we keep doing this kind of stuff, you'll find out that Dolby Atmos is my favorite format real quick.
Real quick.
And from a behind the scenes standpoint, it's fun, where these filmmakers, right? Like these actors and these filmmakers are like tearing down this track in a car on another car, cart thing, and they're going like 115, and they're like, oh my goodness, like this is insane. and then for them to think and say, oh, but we're going 115, they were going 260.
Yeah.
And they were pretty sure the brakes didn't work anymore. Right? like that's the behind the scene gold that I love about film, where it's just people being like, this is insane and awesome that we're like trying to recreate this thing, and it's even crazier in the real world, right? Like there's something cool about that.
Well, I'd like to just mention that I also think the sound design was excellent, from what I can remember, and it was invisible. That's a good thing, right? I was invisible. I didn't think about sound design. I just felt things, and that's fantastic. But to go with that, behind the scenes, these guys are actually driving cars at 150 miles an hour. That's crazy. It's an awesome story. It's a great way to make a movie, all that. But here's the thing. I don't know that I felt 260 miles per hour watching the movie. And I'm not saying that's easy to achieve or like, why didn't you do that? I don't know. When I look back, I definitely felt emotion from the characters. I felt racing. I felt speed, but I didn't sense the insanity that like the guys who did it knew had to be. And I don't know if I can really put that on the film as a shortcoming. And I'm sure there's other people who are like, oh, I totally felt like they were going crazy levels of speed, but I just know for myself. And again, we didn't see it in Dolby Atmos. We didn't see it in a theater. Maybe I missed out on what that would have felt like. But looking back, I do wonder if that's something of a of a missed opportunity or a shortcoming.
Sure.
I mean, just going off riffing on that a little bit. I was like, man, was this all CG? Like whatever? And no, it wasn't. They actually did some crazy stuff to do it. But then the director talking about like, I wanted to have you see something you've never seen because I didn't want it to look like, the NASCAR where the camera's way back, and I wanted to get you in it and I wanted you to feel it. And I was like, but that's what I feel when I see the ads for like, like Forza.
Forza 4,
Forza
Horizon 4,
5.
Name your video game racing game.
Need for Speed. So for me, the way it was shot felt very much like a video game. Like a racing car video game. Like the shots were the same. There was a lot of that kind of stuff. And so for me, I was like, okay, maybe this is new for a theater experience, but for anybody who's done any kind of virtual car, this is the same. And therefore, it actually made me feel more like it was virtual than real, even though they were doing it for real. And so that was kind of like, that was interesting for me in that.
And it is fascinating because we watched the film together, and I did not sense that, think about that. And even as he brought it up after the movie, we were talking. I was like, I don't see it. Like, I mean, sure, are these video game trailers and stuff, video games trying to get close to as cinematic racing as possible? For sure. And so maybe there's some overlap there, but I found it fascinating because Luke, that experience is not something I had, but that was very unique take on that.
Yeah, so I don't know. Did you feel that way? I don't know. Yeah. Well, how about? But clearly, Scott,
me in racing games. I mean, unless I'm playing Mario Kart, that's about it. Sorry, guys.
Those bananas.
Watch out for the bananas. All right, guys. Well, we're coming to the end of another podcast, and even though these guys don't want to answer this question, I'm going to ask it again. Guys, what are you looking forward to seeing soon?
I'm not.
I mean, there's not a lot that I'm particularly excited for. I'm wondering if I can pull this up real quick and actually have a list and then give you a decent answer that wouldn't be awful. There's one. Okay. Wonder Woman 1984. And that's because Wonder Woman was actually surprisingly pretty great when it came out. And still, I guess, it's still pretty great. It's not like
all those years ago.
No, it's still pretty great. I was surprised by its storytelling and what story it was telling. I was appreciative of the story it was telling. I thought it did a great job. And so 1984 looks like it could be fun. I mean, just one more time. There's not much, at least right now, that I've seen the trailers or anything else has really gotten me truly deeply excited. Maybe I'm just going into a different season of life or a different season with movies or something, or things are changing, or maybe just right now the movies that are coming out aren't my cup of tea. But as much as I say, Black Widow last time or 1984, Wonder Woman 1984, I'm excited, but I'm certainly not a fanboy. I'm not super excited. I can't wait to see. I'm just like, oh, I hope that's pretty good because it was surprisingly good last time. So I hope they can do something similar. That's kind of where I'm at.
Where are you, Scott?
My movie this week is going to be called My Spy. It's coming out soon, and this is more of a choice for me that is I'm not expecting it to be a good movie, but I'm curious to see it because it's going to be something that's just going to be lighthearted and fun, and the whole point of it is this kid, based on the trailers, this kid discovers some federal agents and videos them, and they're deciding what to do with this kid, and ultimately she cuts a deal with them where they train her to be a spy, and she ends up training kind of the lead spy to end up being a better person and a better spy because of it in the end. So I think it's not the serious heartwarming movie that I gave you last episode, but this is the fun, lighthearted, let's go out and just kind of explore the spy world from a completely ridiculous, completely not correct standpoint, but have some fun with it. And sometimes you just need to see those movies that are going to be fun. So that's my pick, My Spy. I hope you all have enjoyed watching tonight's, whatever the episode is. And we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for being here.
Bye-bye.
And scene.
Guys,
Jonathan?
we're tired.
Yep.
What? Yeah, it's way past my bedtime.